Rising rents and a lack of funding are threatening Sacramento's housing choice voucher program. And we're talking about what used to be called Section 8 housing. And as we reported, Sacramento's housing voucher program is in need of more money, and the waiting list has been closed, among other changes. But tonight, first on ABC 10, we can report one solution is in the works.
It's hard enough being homeless, but for nearly 200 unhoused people, a glimmer of hope was shattered earlier this year.
This is a really difficult time for everybody.
Mary Liz Paulson is director of the Sacramento Housing and Redevelopment Agency's Housing Choice Voucher Program, formerly known as Section 8. With federal dollars from HUD, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, people in Sacramento County can apply to SHRA for a rent subsidy.
The voucher program is a very large, very complex program.
But in a May 7th meeting with Sacramento City Council members, Paulson reported SHRA had decided to close the voucher waiting list and go back to the pre-pandemic policy of not allowing voucher extensions. In other words, if someone hasn't found housing within 4 months, SHRA will no longer grant extensions. She cited uncertainty about how much money HUD would grant them this year and the rising cost of rents throughout much of Sacramento County.
The fair market rents increased 55% between 2020 and 2024.
When SHRA made this change back in March, about 700 families had a voucher but had not yet found housing and would no longer be granted an extension. Of them, 175 were experiencing homelessness.
We got 175 people out there that have vouchers. Why isn't that a priority? It must be a priority.
It's a huge punch in the gut, especially for a lot of the community members that I represent, because they're very reliant on these, and then especially as we think about homelessness and our need to get folks into housing that they can afford.
Since that May 7th meeting, Mayor Darrell Steinberg tells ABC 10 the city, SHRA, and the county have met twice to come up with a plan to support these nearly 200 unhoused voucher holders.
SHRA has agreed that they are not going to have those vouchers expire. They're going to extend them for the people, at least who are in the latter part of their 60-day process. They've committed to me that nobody's going to lose their voucher who's unsheltered, as long as they're engaged in a real intensive process with all those who are responsible to help find them housing. We cannot allow an expiration date to have them lose that voucher.
I reached out to SHRA to confirm all of this. A spokesperson sent a statement saying SHRA takes seriously its mission to house homeless families and will assist eligible families who have found a rental unit. SHRA is looking forward to partnering with the city and the county to provide housing search support for families with vouchers.
All right, let's bring in Becca Habegger, who has been following this for us. Becca, first question, what about people who have a voucher and have housing? What does all this mean for them?
Yeah, those folks definitely are probably watching this and saying, what about me? Well, I asked that of the mayor today. He emphatically told me they're not kicking anybody out of their existing housing due to funding concerns. And at that May 7th meeting, SHRA was clear. The reason they've frozen the waiting list and have stopped extending unused vouchers is so they can put the money they do have toward continuing to subsidize the rent for people in the program who already have housing.
And Becca, can you explain a little bit the amount that HUD is going to be giving SHRA? Because we do know that amount now, right?
Yes, we've learned that since that May 7th meeting. It's about a 19% increase over last year's allotment. Mayor Steinberg points out there are tens of thousands of people on the now frozen voucher waiting list here. And Steinberg argues we need a lot more federal dollars to meet the need here. Now, I've reached out to SHRA for more detailed answers to a list of questions I sent them, including about funding, but I haven't yet heard back on those.
Yeah, and Becca's going to follow this, so we'll update you as we get those answers. Becca, thank you.